Hello, I'm Steve Robertson. Way back on August the 1st of this year, the Victor Harbor Audit Committee met to discuss that rather thorny issue of council debt. Peter Charles is a former councillor and currently a candidate for mayor of Victor Harbor. Peter, can you tell me what the significance of that meeting was and why should we care more than 6 weeks later?
Well, the significance of an audit committee meeting is very, very clear. The auditors, 3 independent auditors who value their job and doing things correctly, come in and they advise council on where they can make savings or need to draw back on certain things, and just generally give an overview and an audit of what's been going on. And the information is supplied by, of course, the council staff. They supply their own information, they give their own valuation of how they're proceeding with different things, whether they're on target or not on target, or they're in trouble or high risk or extreme risk. And so that's what the purpose of the meeting is in its initial stage. But this was a meeting, just a normal meeting like any other, and some information that was on the agenda sparked an interest, and that was this table, or 2 tables at the end, which showed that we're seriously in the red on so many issues.
The council is in the red,
yeah.
Okay.
But really the key to the whole thing was, yes, there's this meeting occurring in the encounter room, and the glaring strange thing about it was the fact that there was 2 council members missing. So there was 3 independent members only at the table with the ability to vote. So there was not a quorum. Now, a quorum is a very important thing. Their terms of reference state that there must be a councillor present, which would make 4. So it's not just 3 and 5, and 2 missing wouldn't matter because you've still got a majority. It's a matter of you must have, according to the terms of reference.
So why does the quorum matter then in this case?
Well, I think the terms of reference are the issue. When we look at many subjects and issues in council during normal council, the terms of reference are often trotted out. They're brought out as either we're doing the right thing because we're ticking the boxes, we're ticking the terms of reference, or you're not, so you can't speak. That's not in the terms of reference, so you get cut down, you see. So that's basically where that comes in. But when you look at this particular meeting, we had 4. Well, we had the CEO, the acting CEO. We had various other staff who would be totally aware there was not a quorum there on that day, but perhaps it just skipped their minds. But the meeting was conducted. There was voting. There was acceptance of the minutes prior to of the previous meeting, and they just went on their merry way. And the meeting was closed also by the chair, who is that independent member. I won't mention his name, I don't think there's any need to, but they were very, very alarmed at what was going on, and they kept on speaking. There's more to tell, but did you have another question?
Well, I just wanted to know what the auditors said and why it is that we're concerned about the fact that it was or was not a legal meeting. What difference, essentially, does that make, whether it was legal or not?
Well, you've got to go back to the Local Government Act, and if you don't have a quorum, you don't have a meeting. You can't have a meeting. It can be a workshop, it can be many things, but certainly can't be a meeting where decisions are made. That's the end of the story.
Were there decisions made at this?
Well, there was decisions made, decisions to accept the meeting previous, of course, and then a whole lot followed along. Now, people probably wouldn't be interested in watching the entire meeting, but South Coast Television will show snippets of the essential pieces. Now, I must say to you that the South Coast Television are filming from the gallery, and with one camera, and they were accompanied on this particular occasion by Councillor Andrew Robertson, who had previously put in a request to ask questions. Being an economist that he is, he was concerned with what he read in the agenda. Yep. I don't think all the councillors read the agenda of the different council committees. I must be honest, and I certainly didn't read every single agenda and look at the minutes of all meetings. You've got more than enough to cope with under the normal circumstances with the normal council agenda. But he requested early in the day by phone call, and then received a call back from the chair saying, well, we didn't think that the terms of reference allowed questions to be asked from the gallery, even from a councillor. Yet what we see is Mayor Maura Jenkins, who is not a member of that particular committee, and she doesn't have the ability as mayor to sit on the table, sitting at the table and making comment. So she should have been in the same boat as Councillor Andrew Robinson, who was sitting back behind the camera thinking, well, I might get a turn here in a minute, because he is a conscientious man and concerned about the state of the budget. He's the state of the council. He wants to vote accordingly at the next meeting and know the background to everything. He wasn't given the opportunity.
Let's have a look now at a segment of that meeting.
Because I do have a question around the validity of the Audit Committee, because there wasn't a quorum there on the day, and what decisions they made and what they recommended really is not valid.
Going back to your first question, yes, the Audit Committee meeting was not a meeting, it was in fact a briefing because there wasn't a quorum.
Alright, it's just hit 2:30 and we are all here. For those that will be here, I will officially open the meeting. First things first, acknowledgement of the country. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of our people's lands and surrounding waters, the Wurundjeri people. As a community, we recognise and respect their cultural connection with the land and waters. Today, apologies, I jumped past present. We do have two apologies, so I'll flip that around. We've got two apologies today. Councillor Strathwood and Councillor Rosebrook are not able to attend. We still do have quorum with the three independent members, so we'll proceed accordingly. Agenda item 3. Do we have any conflicts of interest to be declared? So the Audit Committee received and note the financial and statutory policy review schedule, update and report. May I have a move, please? Thank you. So yeah, make this the really document it's meant to be. And risk management's not meant to be, you know, sitting around a campfire singing Kumbaya. It's meant to be, oh my gosh, put a problem, how are we going to fix it? Okay, so let's actually use it for the tool that it's meant to be.
Thank you, your feedback's really helpful.
Okay. So the table on page 127, further to having that very transparent and real conversation, what we've got here is, and we've got the corporate system again, because it's up the top and it's full of red. I do look at that table and I think, well, this looks like a much more, I'll say, direct conversation. It's extreme, being the forecast rating as well. And I get that there is an inherent high or an extreme inherent risk, and there's nothing to be worried about. Your current risk does concern me, but the fact that you've got your forecasted rating as extreme as well tells me that there are either no controls in place, or the controls that are in place are actually not doing anything, in which case you probably shouldn't bother doing them anyway. So this is, again, back to that control conversation that, before we were saying everything was okay when it maybe wasn't. Here it's really raising questions to me. What are we actually doing here? How are we ensuring success in these projects? Because if we're not getting, the corporate system has honestly got a few contentious points around it. If you're going to do it and you need to do it operationally, then by all means do it, but let's make sure that we've got some control. And this document tells me we don't. So either this document's wrong, or you haven't actually got your systems and processes in place enough yet to actually move to the next step. And I don't know where that is. But again, that's something for you to really work through. But if this is telling me the current state, this is the actual current state, you need to put a bit of work into it before you start actually designing, implementing, rolling out whatever phase you're in your project. All right, and that goes for all of the risks that are on here. If your forecast rating is the same as your current risk and it's above risk tolerance, which hasn't been considered here, but I'm suspecting highs and extremes are probably above risk tolerance, you've got work to do before you should move forwards. Or again, have that real robust conversation with the recommended body. Are you accepting a high risk here? And then it's up to them. If they say yes, go for it. The conversations again that need to be had, and it's not feeling like they're being had. Or if they are, it's not coming through in a certain way. And again, as an elected, if I was in the elected member seat, I'd be really, really looking forward to how we're going to get that forecasted risk down to a tolerable level. And if tolerance hasn't been set, that's definitely going to be part of Monday's conversation as well.
And through the chair,
Yeah.
so as as mayor, when I see this, it makes me really uncomfortable. And so I'm really pleased that on Monday there's going to be that discussion with the elected members and options put forward to actually reducing some of that risk. Because, we can't keep going on like this, and something will go wrong with one of those at some point if we don't put things in place. So I think that's great we've got that on Monday.
If there's any rephrasing or wordsmithing, we'll do that later, but that's the essence of our recommendation to the elected members. May I have any good please?
I've already written your name.
Right, done. Any seconding? Yes, and we are carried. Okay, thank you for that. Big discussion, but I think a very important discussion. Thank you for all participating. This brings us to the end of our meeting. There are no confidential matters. And the next meeting is on the 7th of November, not October, apologies.
Because I do have a question around the validity of the Audit Committee because there wasn't a quorum there on the day, and what decisions they made and what they recommended really is not valid.
Going back to your first question, yes, the Audit Committee meeting was not a meeting, it was in fact a briefing because there wasn't a quorum.
We're talking with Mayoral Candidate and former Councillor Peter Charles. And Peter, we just had a look at a meeting of the Audit Committee, a portion of that meeting. It dealt with the subject of debt. And I'm wondering, in your view, as a former councillor, Mayor Candidate, what the problem is with debt here at Victor Harbour.
The acting CEO said, well, we're taking it to the councillors on Monday, which gave great relief to the chair, who said, oh, well, that's good. But if you explain to the situation, he was anticipating that they would explain the situation to the councillors. And if the councillors accepted it, well, that's fine. So, it doesn't matter. But the problem with the meeting, of course, was simply that there's just too many projects which cannot be done, and they're all in the extreme area.
What's the issue with this extreme? I've seen the chart, and it's very bright coloured red. What does that mean to ratepayers? What do we as ratepayers need to know about that extreme marking?
I think if you're driving down the street, you see a red light, you understand clearly what it means. Red means blood. Red means problems. Red means stop. Red means beware. It's really as simple as that. I don't think too many people would pick up, myself included, the fine details of how to correct it. And this is why we need people on council who are we've already had 3 who have done their best, but unfortunately being not listened to when it comes to financial matters. People who have had huge experience, and I won't name them now, but I think most people would know who's been battling against the budget after budget after budget. And I can say in the entire time I was on council, 7 years of budgeting, I never voted for one budget. And I don't believe the others did either. We did not support the budget.
So the problem is that the budget, in your view, are just too ambitious. These projects are just too big for Victor Harbour, too much for ratepayers to bear.
I'm glad you've used those terminologies. Those adjectives are quite correct. It is ambitious. Previous CEO that we had, he said that we could manage a major project once every 4 years. And that is quite realistic. But even then, it takes some time to pay it off. We've had the ring road built, and that had to be paid off and built and constructed within one council term.
Now, the phrase terms of reference has come up occasionally in discussions of all this, and I'm wondering, Peter, how that relates to particularly the issues of how Councillor Robertson was treated in this case.
What actually happened was there was a request to speak from the gallery by a very valuable member of the council, this particular councillor, because of his expertise. And he was refused, not directly, nothing was ever explained to him. He was just not called forward to, and that's why he was sitting in the gallery. He was expecting to be brought forward after they checked the reference. Now, the reference doesn't seem to apply there, and no doubt it was checked. But when Team Victor put forward a request by written request and on 2 occasions because he weren't satisfied with the first answer. Why is it that a private hotel car park, not public property, got bitumenised because of some inconvenience, which has not been explained?
So what happened when you asked for this matter to be dealt with?
We were told that it wasn't within the terms of reference, so we wouldn't receive an answer. It's not up to them to investigate just why it is that public funds were being spent on private property without the permission of the council.
Peter Charles, currently a mayoral candidate, explaining his views on Victor Harbour's budget.
Authorised by Peter Charles, Post Office Box 218, Victor Harbour. Spoken by Peter Charles and Steve Robertson. Produced by South Coast Television.